Imagine this. The sun blazes over Lagos, that restless city where every street hums like a heartbeat. Markets buzz, engines roar, and dreams stretch skyward even when the world keeps trying to clip their wings. For decades, the story of African aviation was written by others, by the Western powers that controlled the clouds. But now, something extraordinary has happened. Nigeria, Africa's beating heart with over 230 million ambitious souls, just made a move that has global aviation giants trembling. No red carpets, no media spectacle, just a quiet but earth-shaking decision from its Civil Aviation Authority to fast-track certification for China's COMAC C919 aircraft. And that, right there, might have just rewritten the rules of who gets to fly and who gets to decide. You see, while European regulators at EASA are clutching their pearls, saying it'll take 3 to 6 years to validate the C919 for Western use, Nigeria just said, "Why wait?" That single question carries the weight of history, of nations long told to wait, to comply, to take permission before they could soar. And now, Boeing is in disbelief. Airbus is sweating bullets. Because for the first time in decades, a major African nation is no longer waiting for Western approval to define its future in the skies. This isn't just a deal for airplanes. This is a statement about sovereignty. It's a declaration that Africa will no longer be a passenger in global progress. Let's rewind to the moment it all started. It's late 2025. In Montreal, where the UN Aviation Assembly meets, quiet murmurs ripple through the conference halls. On the sidelines, Captain Chris Omonnumo, Nigeria's tough, no-nonsense Director General of the Civil Aviation Authority, breaks from the crowd. He isn't mincing words. While others debate protocols and approvals, he's saying something radical. We'll handle domestic certifications ourselves. That's a bold stance, because Europe's regulators insist that the COMAC C919 needs years of validation before Western skies will open to it. But Nigeria's message is clear. We're not waiting for anyone's permission to fly. So, what's the big deal about the C919? Picture a sleek, narrow-body jet designed to rival Boeing's 737 and Airbus's A320. The workhorses of the skies. Built by China's state-backed aerospace giant, COMAC, this aircraft represents not just engineering ambition, but geopolitical disruption. Powered by engines from GE Aerospace and the French firm Safran, the C919 first took commercial flight in 2023 with China Eastern Airlines. Since then, it's been zipping across mainland China, proving itself route after route. Now, China is ready to take it global. And Nigeria might just be the key that opens that door. Let's be honest, Boeing and Airbus have dominated the aviation world for decades. Together, they control almost 90% of the global narrow-body market. That's not competition. That's a duopoly. Every airline in the developing world depends on them for aircraft, parts, and certifications. Every regulation, every rule, every price tag, all set by Western gatekeepers. And yet, both these giants have been struggling. Boeing is still reeling from safety controversies and delivery delays. Airbus is drowning in backlogs, unable to meet surging global demand. Now comes COMAC, offering countries like Nigeria not just planes, but partnerships. Maintenance training, local assembly, technology transfer, a package deal that empowers nations, not just sells to them. That's what makes Boeing nervous. Because once countries start seeing alternatives, they stop seeing Western companies as indispensable. Nigerian airlines like NG Eagle already see the opportunity. Their CEO, Abdullahi Ahmed, recently hinted that while they operate 3 jets now, the dream is much bigger, and COMAC could make it possible. You see, this isn't a gamble born of desperation. It's a strategic calculation. Nigeria knows airfares remain a burden for millions of citizens, even as global fares have dipped by 44% since 2011. Affordable aviation isn't just about comfort, it's about economic freedom. And the C919 promises precisely that. A new era of accessible flight for African travelers. COMAC isn't just offering Nigeria planes. They're offering the full toolkit: local maintenance facilities, pilot training programs, dry leasing options, and, eventually, technology transfer for localized manufacturing. Imagine the ripple effect: new jobs, aviation engineers, ground crews, and local suppliers, all part of a new ecosystem born in Nigeria. That's how a country builds not just an airline, but an aviation industry. And it's a direct challenge to the system that's kept Africa grounded for generations. Meanwhile, Europe's ESA, the self-appointed sheriffs of the skies, says certification for the C919 could take years. Their executive director insists every design, component, and test flight must undergo exhaustive validation before approval. But many are asking, is this really about safety or about control? Because the longer COMAC is kept waiting, the longer Boeing and Airbus remain unchallenged. It's classic protectionism dressed up as procedure. And Nigeria's fast-track move? It's calling that bluff. Nigeria isn't alone. It's just the loudest voice in a rising chorus. Across Southeast Asia, others are making similar moves. Cambodia and Brunei have placed early orders. Indonesia's Transnusa is already flying COMAC's smaller ARJ-21. Vietnam, Laos, and Malaysia are in talks. Even Thailand and the Philippines are circling the idea. Together, they form a new coalition of nations tired of being dependent, ready to trade permission for partnership. If this momentum continues, we could see the first multipolar aviation market in modern history. One not defined by Washington or Brussels, but by the global South itself. Think about what happens when competition truly arrives. Airplane prices fall, delivery times shrink, technology spreads faster. Airlines can grow without drowning in Western debt. And for countries like Nigeria, that means more routes, cheaper flights, and stronger economies. Because air connectivity isn't just about convenience, it's the bloodstream of modern development. Every new flight route carries business, tourism, innovation, and connection. By betting on the C919, Nigeria isn't just buying planes. It's buying freedom of mobility and economic leverage for an entire generation. There's another layer to this story: the environmental one. The C919's new generation LEAP engines are designed for fuel efficiency, producing fewer emissions than many older jets. That fits perfectly with Africa's push toward sustainable industrialization. Imagine Nigerian and other African carriers leading with eco-efficient fleets, not as followers, but as trendsetters in green aviation. For a continent often sidelined in climate conversations, that would be a powerful symbol. Progress that's both economic and environmentally conscious. This moment in aviation is about more than engineering. It's about who controls the skies, and by extension, who controls opportunity. Boeing and Airbus built empires on global dependency. But dependency is a fragile foundation. Once nations realize they have choices, the entire system begins to shake. Nigeria's decision sends a message far louder than any diplomatic speech. We are no longer waiting for you to validate our future. That's sovereignty in action, and it resonates across the global South. To many Nigerians, this move is more than economics. It's emotional. It's a symbolic rejection of post-colonial control, a way of saying, we can fly on our own terms. When Nigeria buys the C919, it's not just adding to its fleet. It's reclaiming agency. The green-white-green flag on the tail of a COMAC jet isn't just paint. It's poetry. It says, "We are done being grounded by others' rules." Now, imagine the domino effect. Kenya, Ethiopia, South Africa, nations with booming aviation sectors might soon follow Nigeria's lead. More orders from Africa mean more local jobs, more regional routes, more independence. Before long, we could see African-made aviation components, training centers, and innovation hubs. That's not fantasy. That's the next logical step once you start rewriting the rules. Because every major industrial revolution began when someone decided not to wait for permission. If the Global South embraces COMAC, we could be witnessing the end of a 50-year duopoly. Imagine a world where African airlines partner directly with Asian manufacturers. Latin America and Southeast Asia negotiate on equal terms. Boeing and Airbus finally face the competition they've long avoided. This isn't the end of Western aviation. It's the rebirth of global aviation. A marketplace driven by merit, not monopoly. As the sun dips over the Atlantic, imagine a scene. A C919 jet, gleaming in Nigerian colors, lifting off from Murtala Muhammad International Airport. Smooth, confident, and unshackled. It's not rebellion for rebellion's sake. It's reclamation. Reclaiming the right to define progress. Reclaiming the skies once ruled by others. Reclaiming pride, purpose, and partnership. Boeing's disbelief and Airbus's silence. Those are the sounds of empires realizing the world has moved on. Nigeria's bold step is more than a headline. It's history in motion. It could spark an aviation renaissance where African nations no longer compete for crumbs, but command the clouds. So the real question is this: if Nigeria can do it, who's next? Because once the first nation rewrites the flight plan, the rest of the world will have to choose between the comfort of control and the courage of change.